La lingua temperati. La lingua temperati. Laling wata karatu. Laling wata karatu.
Good morning, everyone. We need to put a headphone in. Can everyone in the room put their headphones on? Wonderful. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to open this panel on coastal blue carbon with a really exciting group of panelists. And yeah, it's my pleasure to welcome you here on behalf of Blue Ventures and our partners, Conservation International and the Blue Carbon Initiative. With no further ado, I'm going to hand over to our wonderful moderator, Angelique Poppeneau, who is the CEO of SECAT, which is a conservation trust fund in the Seychelles. She's also an environmental lawyer and all-round ocean champion, and I'm really honored to have her here today as the moderator. So without further ado, Angelique, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Leah, for that very generous introduction. So, morning, everyone, and I'm really happy to welcome you to this event, talking about mangroves and their vital roles for climate change mitigation and adaptation. I love the fact that we're talking about mangroves, we're talking about blue carbon. Although not called a blue COP, it certainly feels pretty much like a blue COP. So I'm really glad to see that the UK has continued that leadership and hope to see it institutionalized and continued within subsequent COPs. So to kick us off with an opening address will be Professor Gideon Henderson. So he's the Chief Scientific Advisor for the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, DEFRA, from the UK government. Professor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Angelique. I hope you can all hear me, and thank you for your kind words about the UK continuing in the Blue COP spirit. That's certainly our intention, is to have a strong ocean theme running through this COP meeting, as there was at the last one in Chile/Madrid. So I'd like to start by thanking, I think I have some slides. How do I get those to come up? Oh, as if by magic, perfect. I'd like to start by thanking Blue Ventures for organising this event. The UK has had a long partnership with Blue Ventures, and we are proud to fund their programme and the amazing work that they do across many sectors of the ocean. Climate change is having a catastrophic impact on the ocean's health and its ability to provide functions critical to life. With that in mind, as part of our COP presidency, the UK is championing a call for ocean action, seeking still greater action on ocean protection and, of course, the science and the finance to support it. What I'd like to do in my opening remarks is highlight some of the things that we announced or agreed at this meeting yesterday in the context particularly of mangroves and their importance in the system. As this audience will know, of course, protecting and restoring critical marine habitats, from seagrasses and mangroves, such as this beautiful example here, to salt marshes and coral reefs, can help us adapt to climate change, protect biodiversity, support communities, and absorb more carbon, perhaps 5 times more carbon than tropical rainforests by area. Mangroves, of course, provide valuable benefits to coastal communities. They provide jobs and income, they support fisheries, they prevent storm damage and incursion from flooding, and they help alleviate poverty and improve the lives of those people living in the environment. So I was delighted that yesterday saw a Blue Finance Roundtable from the Ocean Risk and Resilience Action Alliance, at which we heard how private, public and civil sectors can collaborate to invest in marine natural capital, including the mangroves you see here. Yesterday's commitments, along with those made by the UK, will support developing countries to enhance marine and coastal ecosystems, increasing the resilience of coastal communities and their ability to adapt to climate change. Despite their value, Something like 30 to 50% of mangroves globally have been lost in the past 50 years due to clearance for development, overexploitation, and aquaculture. You can see an example of just that sort of loss in this slide here. As part of the UK's ongoing commitment to action to prevent such damage and to support blue carbon habitats, we're working with Blue Ventures, investing more than £10 million in their Blue Forests programme in Madagascar and Indonesia, to create examples that we hope can be replicated across other communities and countries of community-led fisheries and mangrove management. More generally, I think I have a picture of just that sort of work going on here. More generally than specifically around mangroves, we do need to protect the global ocean. That is why, as leaders of the Global Ocean Alliance, we, the UK, are calling for an international 30 by 30 target to protect at least 30% of the global ocean by 2030, expanding the area of protected ocean that you see in this slide today, and which is growing rapidly at the moment. We're delighted that there are now over 100 countries supporting this 30 by 30 action in the ocean. And yesterday on Ocean Action Day here at the COP, we were able to announce the latest wave of countries. I hope I don't miss any out in this list, but they include India, Saudi Arabia, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Sri Lanka, Georgia, Qatar, Samoa, Bahrain, Tonga, and the Gambia, joining a list of others to make now a total of more than 100, as shown in this image here. Of course, we support everyone to join this ambition and hope we will reach the 30 by 30 goal in the coming years. In the UK, our waters, 38% of them are protected, including the majority of our blue carbon habitats of salt marsh and seagrass. Sadly, we don't have any mangrove at our latitude. More internationally, the UK has launched a £500 million Blue Planet Fund that will support developing countries to protect the marine environment and reduce poverty. The programs in this fund will improve marine protected areas, they'll tackle illegal fishing, they'll improve management of fisheries, support sustainable aquaculture, and protect marine habitats to tackle marine pollution. All of this, of course, helping in our ambition to reverse climate change and biodiversity loss. It's crucial for action on blue carbon habitats to be underpinned by ocean science. I would say that, of course, as a chief scientist to a government department looking after the ocean. In that context, it's wonderful to now be in the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. And this offers us a framework for international collaboration to develop the science in their logo to give us the ocean that we want rather than the ocean that we have. Closer to home here in the UK, another announcement yesterday was that the nations of the UK will work more tightly together to establish a new cross-administration blue carbon evidence partnership to progress the evidence base on blue carbon habitats in the UK water, sharing and pooling our scientific knowledge and resources across the 4 nations of the UK. And I've got high hopes for that improving still further on the UK protected areas that you see in this map here. We've achieved a lot, including what we achieved yesterday with further agreements, but there's still a great deal more to do. I hope we can continue to work together internationally to build an ever greater ocean action. And it's with that in mind that I'm very delighted to share on the stage today with a number of representatives from Costa Rica and Madagascar. I'm greatly looking forward to hearing more about the blue carbon action in their countries. Thanks very much. Over to you, Angelique.
Thank you very much, Professor. And I have to say, after the week I've had running between negotiations and side events, always great to start off Saturday on a very positive note. Thank you. On a very positive note. So thank you for kicking us off and setting the tone for the event. And indeed, happy once again to be spending some time with some blue carbon leaders. Our speakers today are from countries that are really showing leadership when it comes to blue carbon ambition, and in particular focused on mangroves. We're going to hear examples of really forefront blue carbon thought leadership, showing us that it's possible, that it's working, and really a hope to see a stronger place of nature-based solutions within the climate change forum. I know on the sidelines of negotiations, we're also talking about more ocean climate dialogue. So hopeful that this inspires us here in the side event space, but also, really translates into the negotiating rooms and gets the negotiators thinking to make sure that these things are in the text. So we're going to start off our panel, and I'm going to take each one at a time. We do have some really inspiring examples here. I'm going to start with Senora Cynthia Gutierrez from Costa Rica. She's the Vice Minister of Water and Seas from Costa Rica. Vice Minister, tell us, we've heard a lot of ambition coming out of Costa Rica. I'm going to share with you a secret, but Seychelles has a secret competition with Costa Rica to be blue carbon leaders. No, I'm joking, but I'd love to hear more about what Costa Rica is doing in the blue carbon space, but very much focused on mangroves. Thank you.
Thank you, Angelique. We love what Seychelles is doing and what you're doing over at Seychelles, and we need more Seychelles. We need more of that beautiful example, of course, and we'd love to share our experience with all of you. Yes, in terms of Costa Rica, we have done, we have been very ambitious. We have, as you all know, included in our NDCs. 2020 was a blue year for Costa Rica. It was important, and we have very high ambition and serious commitments when it comes to blue carbon ecosystems, as we like to call them. So we've been working hard with our mangrove restoration, but it's not only about restoration. It's also about managing what we have. And our scientists tell us now that what we've been doing with our tropical forest, we can do it 10 times better. We can store 10 times more carbon in these mangroves. So of course, it's very strategic. And maybe I would like to show you, this is our second most important area in terms of mangrove. This is called the Gulf of Nicoya. And as you can see, this is exactly how it looked like in the 50s. So there's a lot of restoration that really needs to start going on in this specific area. And that's where we started, because we thought it could be an excellent example of what we can do with partnerships, with collaborations from NGOs, and finding the proper finance. So we're very excited to hear about these blue funds. And I think this is a great example of what can be done. As you can see, in getting local communities to be part of it is essential. If you don't have local communities on your side and you don't make them part of it, then you won't be successful. And as you know, they're all the time dealing with this. They are part of this nature, so they know how it works. So that's when citizen science comes into play, which is very important as well to take into consideration. Having them as part of this project is what I think got the best out of it because of them. So I wanted to show you, this is a sugarcane plantation. This is a mangrove that they started restoring, and this is the before and after picture. So it can be done. It must be done, and we need to start focusing on ocean-based solutions. We were hearing scientists yesterday telling us about 90% of the heat from climate change is being absorbed by oceans. For us, Costa Rica being in the tropical side, it's quite essential, as you might know. But I do think that together is, Professor was saying, it's a global ocean, so we need nature-based, ocean-based solutions. And I would love to have every COP be a blue COP from now on. I think this has to be a recurrent dialogue, and we need to scale it up. And if Costa Rica, such a small country, could do it, such as Seychelles and Belize, I think everybody else can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister. And absolutely, I think all our countries are showing that leadership. And it's really interesting how there are so many other countries with so much more mangroves, so much more space, so much more power. And we hope that they, continue to learn from the examples that you set. I now turn to a neighbor from Madagascar, a friend down the sea lane, if you like, Dr. Raharini Nirani. I think it's almost there, Rahari Nirina. And I'd love to just share with you, we always reach out to Madagascar because there's so much that you've done with mangroves so far. And there's a lot of learnings, a lot of lessons to share, and a lot of knowledge exchange that needs to happen. Obviously, we're trying to understand how we can translate some of that in Seychelles to seagrass. So we continue to, want to learn from your experiences, and I'd love to hear and share with the rest of the audience, what is Madagascar doing in terms of mangroves and climate adaptation and mitigation? Minister.
Merci beaucoup. Et tout d'abord, je suis très ravie de voir toutes ces femmes qui sont là, engagées sur ces questions de mangroves. Ça montre à quel point la femme a un rôle important sur ces questions climatiques et environnementales. Je voulais aussi saluer son Excellence du Costa Rica et saluer leur leadership et également les Seychelles. Je suis ravie aussi qu'une représentante de Madagascar qui est vraiment dans le leadership avec les communautés soit là.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the organization of this panel today. I am very happy to see all these women on this panel who are actively engaged on mangrove conservation. They have a very important role, specifically working on coastal ecosystems around the world. I would also like to greet the Costa Rican leadership in this place, as well as the leadership from women in Madagascar, working in Madagascar on conserving mangroves.
Madagascar est surtout connu pour sa biodiversité unique au monde, pour les lémuriens et ces derniers temps pour ce qui se passe dans le sud, mais on oublie que 2% des mangroves mondiales se retrouvent à Madagascar. Et là, vous avez la carte de toute cette zone. Nous avons surtout des mangroves sur la côte ouest avec une surface de 390 853 hectares et 98% de ces mangroves se retrouvent donc sur la côte ouest de l'île.
Yes, so Madagascar is mainly well known for its unique biodiversity and its lemurs, as well as, unfortunately, right now for the famine that is happening in the south. But however, Madagascar also has a large share of mangroves on its territory. We can see that 98% of the mangroves are in the west and in the northern coast of Madagascar. But unfortunately, there's a high rate of decline of mangroves as well.
Et justement, nous avons perdu à peu près 17% de ce mangrove sur les 10 dernières années, ce qui a poussé l'État malagasy à mettre en place activement une politique publique de restauration et de conservation. Et j'en profite, puisque j'ai vu la carte tout à l'heure, pour la stratégie 30-30 des océans. Je suis ravie de dire qu'on va rejoindre ce groupe de coalition.
Yes, so Madagascar has lost about 17% of their mangrove cover over the last 10 years. And this is why the Madagascar state has pursued public policies in favor of protection as well as restoration of mangroves. We've also decided, in link with the strategy to protect 30% of oceans and land by 2030, to join this global commitment as Madagascar.
Alors, je vais aller très rapidement sur le rôle des mangroves, à la fois sur l'atténuation et l'adaptation. Mais en tout cas, pour Madagascar, il y a une forte communauté qui dépend de ces mangroves et sur lesquelles il y a vraiment un potentiel économique très élevé également. raison pour laquelle le gouvernement ou le président de la République vient de mettre en place un département dédié, donc un ministère de l'économie bleue également.
Pardon. Oui, donc je vais passer. I will pass very quickly on the key roles of mangroves for both the mitigation and the adaptation to climate change. Moreover, communities, as we all know, depend highly on them as an ecosystem for their livelihoods, and mangroves also have a huge economic potential in Madagascar. This is why the Madagascan state decided to create a ministry that is specifically dedicated to work on coastal ecosystems. It's a ministry for the blue economy.
Madagascar est aussi un pays, on va dire, modèle en matière de signature et de ratification des conventions. Nous avons quasiment toutes les conventions internationales en environnement allant de la CDB. Nous sommes aussi dans l'initiative AFR 100 ou également les conventions des Nations Unies sur la mer, la convention de Nairobi. Il y a également une volonté de traduire ces conventions internationales en politique publique et c'est tout le défi de mon département et maintenant du département économie bleue.
Madagascar is a model country in terms of ratification of international conventions. We've ratified the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. We're also a member of the initiative AFR 100 about reforestation. We have signed the Convention of the United Nations on the Sea, as well as the Convention of Nairobi. The challenge of my department is now to translate all these global conventions into public policy, and that will also be the challenge of the new Ministry for Blue Economy.
Ce qui est intéressant avec la question des mangroves, par contre, c'est que ça oblige différents départements à travailler ensemble, comme le département de la pêche, l'économie bleue, et mon département de l'environnement, et surtout une forte collaboration avec la société civile. Je salue d'ailleurs le travail de Blue Ventures à Madagascar et le réseau MIAR qui est représenté par Vatsu, qui est un exemple de success story sur la gestion communautaire et l'implication des populations locales dans la protection et la restauration des mangroves également.
Yes, what is interesting is that the mangroves actually lead us to collaborate across the different departments. So, for example, of course, the Ministry of Fisheries, as well as the newly created Ministry for a Blue Economy, and my own ministry, the Ministry of Environment and Sustainable Development. We also led to work very actively with civil society, including the Mihari network, which is today presented by Vatsu, who is on the stage. And it's a network of small-scale fishers across the country who have organized themselves in locally managed marine areas.
Et en termes d'ambition politique, il y a bien évidemment les déclarations de restauration et de reboisement au niveau national. Donc là, vous voyez les chiffres, 2020, 35 000 hectares de forêts primaires et mangroves à restaurer. Et là, nous avons augmenté ces ambitions-là avec bien évidemment l'objectif de 55 000 hectares par an d'ici 2030. Rien que cette année, il y a également un choix d'aller beaucoup plus loin que ça et de mettre 150 000 hectares en termes de restauration mangroves et terrestres. Et donc l'objectif est de augmenter chaque année la part des mangroves puisqu'on se rend compte que c'est quelque chose qui est beaucoup plus facile que sur le terrestre et surtout ça engage énormément de monde.
We have in Madagascar a political ambition, which is a commitment to protect and to restore mangroves. As you can see here, by 2020, we're planning to restore 35,000 hectares of both primary forests and mangroves. And by 2030, we will increase this yearly restoration rate to 55,000 hectares. So the objective is really to increase every year, and it also leads us to engage very actively with all the communities across the country.
L'obligation de restauration que nous sommes engagés à faire est de 4 millions d'hectares d'ici 2030, donc restauration à la fois forêt primaire et mangrove. Je passe maintenant à la stratégie nationale REDD+, puisqu'il faut savoir que Madagascar a signé en janvier 2021 son premier contrat REDD+, toujours dans cet objectif de solidarité climatique mondiale pour réduire les émissions de gaz à effet de serre des nombreux pays émetteurs, mais également pour permettre à Madagascar de conserver ses forêts tout en permettant une compensation aux communautés locales.
Yes, so we have an obligation to restore both our primary forests and our mangroves of 4 million hectares by 2030. Sorry. So quickly, also some information about the national strategy of REDD+ that was adopted in Madagascar. So the first REDD+ project was actually launched in January 2020. And so this is really in line with the wish of the government to pursue this international solidarity while reducing emissions globally. And it also allows, of course, Madagascar to protect their forests in their own countries while compensating local communities for the economic losses from the protection of the forest.
Et toujours dans la poursuite de cette ambition de concilier la conservation, la réduction des émissions et surtout la distribution auprès des communautés locales, nous sommes en train également de faire appel pour le carbone bleu de Madagascar. Ce qui est important dans cette stratégie de Madagascar REDD+, c'est la mise en place d'un plan de partage qui met en avant les communautés locales. C'est la première fois dans l'histoire de Madagascar que nous avons un plan de partage qui offre 20% des revenus du carbone aux communautés locales et ça va être le même schéma pour le carbone bleu.
Yes, so in this same line of pursuit of this ambition to have basically a threefold win, so a win for conservation, a reduction in terms of emissions, as well as a distribution of the compensation to the local communities, we have also started to work on blue carbon. So the national REDD+ strategy has led us to develop a benefit sharing plan whereby 20% of the revenues that will reach the country will actually be reserved and specifically dedicated to local communities. And so this rule that is adopted under the national REDD+ strategy will of course also apply to the blue carbon, so the mangrove credits.
Alors, pour terminer, je vais présenter quelques initiatives de Blue Carbon qui sont déjà en cours. Donc, le premier, c'est avec Blue Venture, Stayirionko Project. Et là, nous avons déjà un résultat de 1200 hectares de mangroves qui a été restauré avec les communautés locales et avec cette idée de gestion communautaire qui est un franc succès. Ensuite, il y a également des projets de restauration de mangroves avec la GIZ, donc la coopération allemande, et également Eden Project, qui est un projet qui nous vient des États-Unis et qui, je crois, est financé par le fonds, la Fondation Bezos. Et enfin, très important dans l'engagement politique de Madagascar également, la multiplication par 3, donc triplement de la surface des aires protégées, y compris les zones de mangroves. Et cette ambition, nous sommes maintenant à 1/3 des résultats en matière d'aires marines protégées. En termes d'aires protégées terrestres, nous avons atteint les objectifs. Donc là, le gros travail qui attend Madagascar et ses partenaires, c'est vraiment sur les questions de mangroves. D'aires marines protégées.
Yes, I'll quickly talk about some of the blue carbon initiatives that we have now in Madagascar. The first one is called Tahiri Hunku. It's a project from Blue Ventures in the southwest of Madagascar, whereby we've already achieved the result of restoring 1,200 hectares of mangroves in this approach of with locally managed mangroves by the local communities. There's also some efforts undergoing by the GIZ, the German Development Cooperation Agency, to as well restore the mangroves in the country. And maybe another worthwhile project to mention is the Eden Project, which is funded by the US. One of the funders is actually the Bezos Earth Fund. So by now what we've achieved is that we have the protected area, the surface of the protected areas has been multiplied by 3, including the mangroves. And when we come to marine protected areas, we're now about looking we have achieved already 1/3 more or less of the results of the objective that we've set for ourselves. So that will really be the continued priority now to work on the marine protected areas and in particular on the mangroves in the coming years.
Et en termes de restauration, pour comparer un peu les chiffres, en 2020, nous étions à 4500 hectares, un peu moins, et là, en 2021, nous sommes à 10 000 hectares. Et donc, on voit bien cette appropriation nationale de l'importance de la restauration de mangroves. Et pour l'année 2022 à venir, on espère atteindre les 25 000 hectares de restauration.
So in terms of the restoration, to give you an idea at the national scale with all these initiatives, what have we achieved? So in 2020, we have been able to restore about 4,300 hectares, and this number has increased, more than doubled. In 2021, we have restored about 10,000 hectares, and the objective now is to continue to grow exponentially. For 2022, our objective is to restore 20,000 hectares of mangroves.
Et pour conclure, moi, je voudrais vraiment parler d'une note très positive parce que ce que je constate en descendant sur le terrain, en ayant fait 22 régions à Madagascar sur les 23, c'est que les mangroves sont un enjeu vraiment approprié par les communautés locales, par les acteurs étatiques, mais aussi les acteurs privés. Et on constate également un engouement pour la restauration parce que c'est quelque chose d'assez facile par rapport à la forêt terrestre. Et l'autre point qui est crucial, c'est vraiment ce challenge de montrer que conserver les mangroves, c'est aussi pouvoir avoir des compensations économiques à travers, bien évidemment, l'argent du carbone, mais surtout, on constate une nette augmentation des captures du côté de la pêche artisanale, mais aussi de la pêche industrielle. Et donc, on voit bien ce schéma gagnant-gagnant qui est en train de se mettre en place. Et c'est un secteur auquel il est beaucoup plus facile de convaincre pour le ministère de l'Environnement. Merci beaucoup.
So I would like to conclude on a very positive note. I've done multiple field trips across the country, across all the regions of Madagascar, and what I've been able to observe is that the mangroves and the initiatives related to mangrove restoration are really owned by the state, the private sector, but also by the local communities. I observed a really high motivation, actually, of planting mangroves across the country. And one of the reasons is, of course, that conserving and restoring mangroves brings us really important economic benefits. This is, on the one hand, through the blue carbon credits, of course, the international revenues, but we also see that there's benefits for the small-scale fisheries and the industrial fisheries that depend directly on healthy mangrove ecosystems. So we really observe a win-win situation with the protection and conservation of mangroves. And I think that's why it's so easy to convince the partners within the ministry and the rest of the country to step up the efforts in conserving mangroves.
Thank you very much, Minister. Absolutely. And just to reflect a little bit on what you said, it's so great to hear the momentum keeps growing. There are more countries every day making new commitments. That's really inspiring, and really makes us feel that things are really moving in a positive direction. So I thank you for that, and I thank Madagascar for walking the talk, not just saying we will do it. Madagascar is on the ground doing this, and I think it's always worth remembering as well that the ecosystem services that these mangroves are providing is not just for Madagascar, it's for the world. And, we should be extremely happy the efforts being made by Madagascar, Costa Rica, Belize, Seychelles, for really supporting a global ecosystem service. So I really appreciate that. But something that came out from both speeches, and I'm going to look at you, Vatsu, is the importance of government and civil society, and we even heard private sector working together. So Vatsu, what I'd love to hear from you, and Vatsu has coordinated Madagascar's locally managed marine areas network, Mihari, until 2020, and she was elected as the chairwoman of the network. So I want to hear from you about that link and how civil society is supporting government in its political efforts. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Angelique. So my name is Vatsu, and I am an advocate for indigenous and local community conservation effort. I am very passionate in defending the rights of marginalized and vulnerable small-scale fishers and in strengthening their capacity and their ability in sustainably managing their marine and coastal resources. So as Angelique said, for 6 years, I led MIHARI, which is Madagascar's locally managed marine areas network. It is a network that was created in 2012 to represent the voices of Madagascar's LMMA communities, and also in allowing peer-to-peer learning and exchanges between those LMMA communities. The network was also created to link up those isolated communities and to train them to build their capacity in leadership, in public speaking, in fisheries management. So this is what we have been doing with MIHARI. And among the management models of LMMA, there is actually mangroves. So today in Madagascar, we have 219 LMMA associations, and 79% of them are managing mangroves. They have mangrove management plan in place. And talking about MIHARI, we have organized several fishers forums. And in each of those forums, we organize mangrove restoration and planting. So it ranges between 2,000 and 10,000 proposals per forum. Apart from that, we have also organized several dialogues between small-scale fishers and other stakeholders, including the government, the private sector, and NGOs, as well as civil society, about mangrove policy and governance. And finally, we have been leading several advocacy and lobbying to defend the rights of those small-scale fishers when they are facing threats from industrial companies or other stakeholders regarding the mangrove restoration and planting that they are doing. So what I can say based on my 6 years experiences working with MIHARI and small-scale fishers is that for small-scale fishers, they consider mangroves as the factories and the fridge of the marine resources. They are all aware that lots of what they catch, like shrimps, crabs, and fishes, is coming from mangroves. And they also consider mangroves as the most blessed tree among all trees, as it is the one that stores the most carbon in its roots compared to other trees. They also know the critical role that mangroves play in protecting them from strong winds and storms. And when we see those tangible impact of and benefits of mangroves, those communities are motivated to continue planting and restoring mangrove. And they understand more and more how essential mangroves are in the future, given that Madagascar is more and more vulnerable from climate change and is hit by an average 1.5 cyclones every year. And as the minister has said, we have lost about 17% of our mangroves in the last 10 years. And this is especially due to charcoal production and timber exploitation. But unfortunately, those threats are done by those communities that I've talking about. Like, we are defending those communities, we are training them in fisheries management, in mangrove planting and restoration. But unfortunately, most of the time, those communities are concerned in those destruction and the deforestation. So this is one of the reasons within my new organization. As she said, I'm not the president of MIHARI, but I'm working with a new organization, which is called INDRI. So we have launched an initiative, a national initiative, which is called Alamino. So it is a platform that covers all stakeholders in Madagascar, including the government, NGOs, civil society, local communities, and funders to work together on regreening Madagascar. So as the minister has said, we are aiming for 4 million hectares by 2030. For the case of Madagascar, I think that we have all the actors. We have a very engaged government, as I have the minister just next to me here. We have all the capacity, but I think what is missing is the coordination. So within that platform, we are all working together to regreen Madagascar, and it includes mangroves. We are in the process actually to create a special steering committee that will work about mangrove restoration in Madagascar, and the minister has already presented the objective for until 2025. my last message is that small-scale fishers are the guardians of the ocean, like around the world. They are the best guardian to protect mangroves, to do surveillance. So we need to strengthen the capacity of those small-scale fishers in training. We also need to give them the right, the legal framework to let them to be able to do the work that they are doing regarding mangrove protection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vatsu. And you're absolutely right. Inclusion is key to the success of these commitments. And I absolutely love that we are at a climate event and small-scale fishers' voice are being communicated to everyone. And I totally agree with you. They are the guardian of our marine resources. And I like that line. They are the factories of many of the marine resources. I think that's absolutely correct. And we can see the importance of mangroves for both mitigation and adaptation, right? And building that resilience. So thinking about their contributions towards fisheries, as well as many other marine biodiversity as well. So thank you very much for sharing your experience. We now turn a little bit east. West. Now turn west to the east coast of Africa. We go to Kenya to hear from Rama. Rama is the project coordinator of the Mikoko Pamoja project, a community mangrove carbon project in Kenya. It's often a cited example, a case study we all like to turn to. So very happy to have you share that with our audience today.
Good morning, everyone. As introduced, my name is Rahma Rashid Kivugo. I serve with the Mikoko Pamoja Carbon Offset Project as the project coordinator. Like she introduced, I would say Mikoko Pamoja is the first payment for ecosystem services project in the world to engage two local communities in the sustainable conservation as well as restoration of about 117 hectares of mangrove forests that are located within Gazi Bay. I can see that we always say that the project is a project for the community, and by the community in that the community members are the main implementers of this project as well as the main beneficiaries to the project. So our activities allow us to engage in the sale of mangrove carbon credits, and we basically are able to sequester about 2,500 tons of CO2 equivalent every year, which generate about 2.6 million Kenyan shillings, which is about, I guess, 26,000 US dollars in a year. So we get that most of the funds are used for various conservation activities, as well as empowering the local communities in the various socioeconomic activities or areas. Among the activities that we have been able to do or foster around the village through projects such as Mikoko Pamoja has been in the aspects of education. We've been able to renovate classrooms from the money that is generated through the sale of mangrove carbon credits. We've also been able to distribute school books to the local schools. We've also done a lot on water, making clean and affordable water accessible to the various households that are located in the two villages that we're working with. We've also been able to create jobs, both casual as well as permanent jobs. And when I'm speaking about casual jobs, it's in various activities that we conduct, such as the forest monitoring activities, nursery establishment, as well as restoration. We are also a project that advocates for the planting of terrestrial trees. So we have our woodlots where we plant terrestrial trees that I can see are able to reduce the pressure on the mangrove ecosystems by providing an alternative resource for the local communities in terms of accessibility to a source of fuel wood as well as timber for construction for them. And basically, it is also good to note that the money that is generated from the sale of the various resources that are obtained from our woodlots is not associated to the carbon credits, but it's basically contributes to our community fund. again, we have also been able to contribute to various replications, both nationally as well as internationally. We had visitors coming in from Madagascar in the year 2016 who got to learn about the whole carbon offsetting thing through mangrove conservation. And I guess we have contributed to the establishment of the Tahiri Honko project in Madagascar, as well as our very own project that is located further south along the coast of Kenya, known as Vanga Blue Forest Project. So it's actually a project bigger than Mikoko Pamoja is. So that means it is able to generate more benefit to the biodiversity, to climate change, as well as empowering the local communities economically. And again, we have also been able to champion for the inclusion of blue carbon ecosystems into the latest NDCs, Kenyan NDCs, because before we never had the focus on mangrove ecosystems in our NDCs. So by doing so, we are able to contribute more to the removal of greenhouse gas emissions from our atmosphere, which is the entire discussion around COP at the moment. Something else that I would want to say is that, okay, Mikoko Pamoja was established in the year 2013. So, from 2013 to the current year we are at now, which is 2020, it's like 9 years of operation. So that shows that it is something that is practical. It is something that can actually be implemented through various partnerships across organizations. It can be nations and all that. So it is a solution to climate change. And it doesn't come short of challenges, I would say, because you really need to have a lot of patience as well as commitment to whatever goals you want to achieve with that particular project. But again, you need to have a lot of transparency, especially with the communities that you're working with, because like I mentioned, it is a project that is implemented by the communities. So they have to feel that sense of entitlement to the project. And it is by being transparent, which Mikoko Pamoja has been able to achieve from the participatory model of approach that we have employed in our various activities. And this actually comes in not just during implementation, but even before implementation, and that is during the establishment of the project. So I'd say that I want to challenge the nations that have such resources, whether it's in the subtropical regions or the tropical regions, that it's actually possible if you set your mind to it, but then you need to encompass a lot of collaborations from various people, not forgetting the local communities. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rama. And I think you're absolutely right, because this is an example of a project that's actually getting benefits to the community. And I love how you emphasize that ownership and transparency are key to making sure that projects from the design stage all the way to implementation, this is embedded throughout. But I also have to say that more of these initiatives are what we need, because we continue to have these very intellectually stimulating but theoretical discussions. What we need are examples on the ground that can then later be scaled up and see how they're being tested. So thank you so much for that example, and we're glad to hear that there are bigger projects ahead. So that's very exciting. So we've come to the end of our panel, but we've got a couple of questions, and I'm just going to check if we've got any online questions that's come through. So got a couple of questions for the panel. First off, starting with Minister from Madagascar. What advice do you have for other governments who are interested in integrating mangroves in their national REDD+ programs?
Merci beaucoup pour la question. Ce qui est vraiment important dans la question du carbone, notamment pour les mangroves, c'est la question de la distribution. Et le choix que Madagascar a fait dans le plan de partage, c'est vraiment mettre la communauté locale au cœur de la compensation. Ne pas oublier que ce sont les communautés qui font ce travail formidable et elles doivent ressentir les avantages. Ça, c'est une première chose. Et la deuxième chose, c'est vraiment être pragmatique et vous l'avez dit tout à l'heure, terre à terre, multiplier les initiatives, pousser la société civile, pousser aussi le secteur privé. Madagascar vient d'intégrer dans ses obligations pour les acteurs de la pêche la restauration de mangroves. Nous sommes en train d'obliger les entreprises à faire du reboisement et de la reforestation. Nous avons obligé aussi les acteurs de la pêche industrielle à faire de la restauration de mangroves. Et ce n'est pas un choix, c'est un impératif. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
So what is really important when you think about a blue carbon project is really the distribution of the benefits, in particular the benefit sharing agreement. So local communities really have to be at the heart of the compensation because they're the ones also doing the work of replanting the mangroves usually. The second consideration that is very important is that you need to be pragmatic. We're currently trying to multiply the initiatives actually, both with the private sector as well as with civil society. And we're obligating companies, in particular fishing companies, to also reforest and restore their mangroves.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to stick on this. Ram, I'm coming to you because we've got a question from our online audience because they would like to know, and we hope you can help here. How do the benefit sharing mechanism for Mikoko Pamoja work? So how do incoming carbon offset funds get divided between government and community? Is there a percentage? How does it work? Yeah, if you could share some light on that for us.
Okay, I think, first of all, it's good to note that our government doesn't receive any part in the funds that are generated from the sale of mangrove carbon credits. So it's like the total amount generated goes to the the total amount generated goes to the communities that we support. Our structure is like we have 6% of this money that is usually retained for validation purposes that take place every 5 years. And then the other 94% is further allocated into various sections, such as 5% going towards the office expenses, 21% going towards catering for the project coordinator salary, and then we have 36% catering for the various project activities such as forest monitoring. It can be committee meetings, it can be nursery establishment activities, and another 32% goes directly to fund the various community development projects that will be prioritized that year.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the detailed breakdown. She said transparency, she gave us transparency, so appreciate that. Vice Minister, I turn to you now. So, and I bring it back to blue carbon within NDCs. We want other governments to do this. What advice would you give to incorporate blue carbon or mangroves into their NDCs? What advice would you give to other governments? How best to get this done?
Well, we do need to get it done very fast, of course. And I would say we need more countries to commit to this. And it's not that difficult. We have right now we're working with a methodology that I think we can validate and probably will have ready for establishing a protocol on how to do it by next year. So it would be interesting to share this know-how with the rest of the countries, of course. And we have come to understand through what we've been doing that it isn't that hard to be that ambitious. You just have to set your goals, and we have committed to I would think we have very high ambitions, but nevertheless, we have committed to a short, medium, and long-term commitments, and our medium terms and well, our short terms are by 2025. So probably setting setting a year for each and everything that you really want to commit to would be part of it. And in terms of blue carbon ecosystems, also we would have to integrate and think of the connectivity of creating marine protected areas. I know you mentioned that before in your presentation, and Costa Rica is co-founder of the High Ambition Coalition. So 30 by 30, it's very important for us. We incorporated that in our NDCs. I think everybody else should. And part of the commitment will be to have more marine protected areas, both marine and coastal, because they're essentially connected. And of course, we must not forget that food also comes from the ocean. We were talking about nurseries, and if we don't do anything about our nurseries, it would be very hard to have a connection between the marine protected areas with the coastal areas. And something that we did that might help other countries is that we had we constructed our NDCs with the people, and that made the difference. We had a lot of public participation, we had a lot of local participation, and we really had the three levels, local, regional, and national levels, included in the discussion. So from that, it was very easy to commit at the end, because we already had the conversation with the communities. So that was enriching and made a huge difference.
Thank you very much, Vice Minister. And absolutely, I like that tip, realistic but incremental ambition, right? Continue working towards more ambition as you go. And I think there was an invitation there for the Minister of Madagascar about marine protected areas. I hope somebody in Seychelles is also listening so they can join your group. I think we definitely need to continue working together to share knowledge, and really continue to motivate others to bring this all to the front. So I absolutely appreciate all of you for taking the time to be with us this morning. I think we've all appreciated that mangroves has a key role to play. Nature-based solutions still needs to be part of the discussions. It cannot be sidelined. We're not saying, let's not talking about curbing emissions. We need to curb emissions. But nature-based solutions has to be complementary and in addition to that. So I thank you to all the countries, and it's lovely having a panel of women, power. But really to have a panel of state actors, civil society coming together on one stage to show us that we can work together, and we can ensure that it's a sustainable future, right? In Seychelles, we call it a blue future. So really a sustainable future. So thank you very much. And I hope we've started your morning on a positive note, and let's go. Let's save the world. Thank you.
Good morning. Welcome to our side event. Perfect. All right. But can I have maybe the mic first, this one, while I introduce them? Okay. Then I can stand here instead of standing at the podium. And then I can read. Can you hear yourself? Yes, I can hear myself. Very funny. You don't need to I mean, it's obviously like you want to hear yourself. Just take them off. And then when you're all right. If you're moderating, what I would suggest, you stay here and you go up and down, or like walking around. Or you can just take this one. If you just keep this one as yours, and if you yeah, I know. Then you can put it back here. This one is also stretched out. Okay. So let me get a headphone. Good morning, everyone. We'll start shortly. Want me to tell everyone to? Yes. Yeah. They can take a seat and then we put on our headphones. You made it! What a terrible. If the security, I just ran and I'm like, they're like, ma'am, I'm like, running late, I'm going now. My speakers are audio. Oh, yes. All right. Good morning. Welcome. We are starting like in the next minute. If everybody can please put on their headphones to follow the proceedings. And we'll start shortly. All right, I'll give you a minute to settle down and then we can start. No problem. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Glasgow. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the audiences who are joining us online, wherever you find yourself. Welcome to Glasgow. Today it's cold, it's wet, but nonetheless, we have made it. So today's topic is one of 4 side events that the Ministry of Environment, Forestry in Namibia have organized. And today's topic, we are going to unpack what it really takes, what isn't planned for Namibia as we embark towards carbon neutrality. And as we start, I'd like to introduce our speakers for the session today. And I'd also like to invite them to just take their seats at the front. First and foremost, we have Mr. Paulus Ashili, who is a Chief Conservation Scientist in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, and he is also heading the Climate Change Unit. Secondly, I'd like to invite Mr. Alphonse Shekunyenge. He is the focal point of the NDC partnership in Namibia, and Alphonse has been very central towards the development of our first NDC as well as the updated NDC. Secondly, I'd like to invite Ms. Aina Maria Iteta, who is the Business Executive at the EIF. Aina is also the Monitoring and Environmental Evaluation Specialist, as well as the focal point for gender to the UNFCCC. Last but not least, I'd like to invite Mr. Sikanda. He is from the National Planning Commission. Mr. Sikanda is standing in for Mr. John Titus, who unfortunately could not join us today. And this is the team from Namibia who will be unpacking the topic of what is planned ahead as Namibia embarks towards carbon neutrality. So earlier this year, the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, together with its stakeholders, embarked on the path to update Namibia's NDC. For those who are familiar with our NDC, we have set ourselves a very ambitious target whereby we have updated our NDC from 89% greenhouse gas reduction in 2015. And this year, we have set ourselves a target of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 91% by the year 2030. Of course, if you compare our NDC target, even within SADC, this is like one of the highest for any country in sub-Saharan Africa. And today's team will shed some light in terms of how Namibia exactly intends to do that. So first, I would like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Ashili from the ministry, to tell us what are the plans that the ministry has in place.
Okay, thank you very much, Bernadette, for the opportunity, and thank you very much, everyone, for coming to come and listen to the ambition that we have set ourselves to reach carbon neutral by the year 2030, and also to contribute to the global effort towards maintaining the global temperature well below 2 degrees Celsius, and where possible to 1.5 by mid-century. So my name is Paulus. I work for the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. Next slide, please. Very good. Before we go in, I just wanted to share with you the greenhouse gas emission profile for Namibia. So basically, Namibia is one of those countries that actually emitting very, very less. If you put our emission on a global scale, it's basically insignificant. We are emitting about 0.001%. Our emission is basically classified as follows. CO2, carbon dioxide represent about 63%. 21% is from methane. This is mostly from waste, and also from industry, but also very important, as you all know, Namibia is a beef producing country. So a lot of methane is actually coming from livestock production. And the rest, 16% is from nitrous oxide, mostly from industry and also agricultural sector. About 78% of our national emission is from Afolu sector, and that's particularly attributed to deforestation that has been happening for the past years, but it's something that we are really addressing. But what we have also observed recently, according to our latest inventory, energy is actually taking over from Afolu, with currently standing at 18% of our emission. And this is attributed basically to the infusion of cheap cars that are actually coming to Namibia from Asian market. So the emission is actually picking up in the energy sector. Next slide. Very good. So this is our ambition that we have set ourselves by up to the year 2030. Towards the achievement of the Paris Agreement. So what we have done, we have actually pledged to the world to reduce our emission by 21.9 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. That's 14% unconditional and 77% conditional by the year 2030, compared to business as usual. If you are not going to do that, we are going to emit about 24.167 metric tons of CO2. So altogether, we are pledging to the world to reduce our emission by 91% up to the year 2030. Next slide. So looking at the means of implementations, it is estimated that the cost of our NDC, it's around 5 billion US dollar. And if you convert it to Namibian dollar, it's about 80 billion Namibian dollar. That means we will need about 8 billion per year up to the year 2030 to achieve the target that we have set ourselves in the NDC. And of that, 10%, it's actually conditional. That one, we are going to mobilize it within our internal budgeting. And we have also set it in such a way that 1/3 of the funds that is going to be required it's going to adaptation, and 2/3 it's going towards mitigation. Next slide, please. Yes, these are just to run through quickly on the sectors that we are targeting. We have 4 sectors, the IPPC sectors that we are targeting. We have energy sectors. Here we are actually trying to increase the share of renewable energies. And there are lots of programs that we are targeting. For instance, wind farm, solar farm, and also the refit program, and also hydropower that we want to exploit in order to increase the share of renewable energy. Next slide. Transport, as I have said, transport is one of the sectors that is actually picking up when it comes to greenhouse gas emission. Here we are actually promoting, or we want to introduce, about 10,000 electric cars by the year 2030. And we also want to promote fuel switching. That's hydrogen, infusion of hydrogen fuel in our transport. As most of you have witnessed, our president have just recently launched have awarded the bids to the successful bidder for setting up the hydrogen. So we really want to infuse this efficient fuel in our transport sector. Next slide. On the industrial processes and use, here we are particularly targeting the cement production. We have 2 cement production. And in the cement industry, people are using what we call clinker. Clinker is one of the substances that also contribute to the GNG emission. So we are proposing to use fly ash instead of clinker. So, and the industry production are really coming on board to absorb this proposal. The other sector that we have also included in our revised NDC is the refrigeration and air conditioning. So this is the sector that is also emitting methane, and the methane is one of the gases that have a higher global warming potential. So we have, for instance, introduced or recommended that some of these gases need to be replaced, and it will also complement very well the achievement of targets in the Kigali amendments. Next slide. Yes, a follow sector. One of the targets also that we want to make a dent when it comes, for instance, to planting of trees. We are proposing that by the year 2030, for instance, we want to plant about 5,000 hectares of trees, reduce deforestation by 75%, and also restore about 15.5 million hectares of our degraded land. Next slide. Yes, waste. Here we are proposing to convert waste material to energy in order to capture methane, and also to increase recycling, of course. Next slide. Very good. That was mitigation, but as a vulnerable country, our NDC have also put a strong emphasis on adaptation. We want to adapt in the area of water sector. For instance, we want to come up with an integrated water resource management. Also monitor the recharge of underground aquifer. And very important, we are very much blessed with the Atlantic Ocean, a lot of water. So we want to desalinate our seawater so that we can, come up with projects that are geared towards addressing or building resilience for our community when it comes to food security and also water security. Yes. Next slides, please. Agriculture is also one of the sectors where we are also putting emphasis. For instance, the scaling up of climate smart agriculture, minimal disturbance of soil that also leads to the minimal emission of CO2, also enhancing access to inputs and also farming equipment. and also promoting climate resilience, livestock that can adapt to the harsh and harsh environment condition, harsh conditions. And yeah, of course, to integrate pest management, because it's projected that as it's getting warmer and warmer, there will be also lots of, pest outbreak and so forth. Yeah, forestry, I have already indicated that we are planning to plant a lot of trees and also restore many hectares. Next. Yes, very important. Coastal zone management. Here we are actually planning to introduce, come up with legislation that is going to control property development, because it's projected that our, sea level rise is projected to rise, and some of our, towns are expected also to go underwater. So we want to come up with legislations that are going to control the development of properties along our coastline. Here we are also planning to intensify research and monitoring, of course, including our research institutions to do this, and also the development of early warning system, rehabilitation of our wetlands that we have along our coastline. And also, of course, to build sea walls, just in case if, the sea level happen to go up. We have important infrastructure such as our port, so we need to protect them. So in a nutshell, these are some of the targets that we have set ourselves, and we are optimistic that we will achieve them with the support of development partners that we have. Commonwealth is one of them, GCF, Adaptation Fund, and of course our Environmental Investment Fund. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ashili, for painting the picture in terms of what the government of Namibia has put in place on how it will achieve some of these targets. There is definitely testimony that for those who aim big, the possibilities are endless. And I will invite Mr. Alphonse Chikunyenga next, and he's going to tell us how the NDC partnership is going to assist the Namibian government in achieving these targets of the NDC. Alphonse?
Thank you very much, Bernadette. A very good morning to everybody. As I was introduced earlier, my name is Alphonse Chikunyenga. I work for the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. I'm the NDC Partnership Plan focal point, responsible for the coordination and fast-tracking the implementation of NDC-related activities in Namibia. And this morning, I'm going to talk to you about how the NDC partnership is supporting Namibia in achieving its ambitious climate goals. So I will start off by defining what NDC partnership is, and I will talk about its objectives. And lastly, I'll talk about the milestone that we have attained since joining the NDC partnership support unit. So basically, NDC partnership is a global coalition of countries and institutions that are working towards the attainment of ambitious climate goals and enhancing sustainable development. So the NDC partnership's overall objective is to assist countries in overcoming NDC implementation challenges through linking them to financing windows, such as the multilateral windows, and also as well as assisting them in coordinating the NDC engagement processes in their countries. So Namibia joined the NDC partnership support unit back in 2016 in Marrakesh in Morocco at COP21 in order to overcome some of the implementation the NDC implementation challenges. As my colleague Ashili presented, Namibia is one of the countries with the most ambitious NDC in the world. So to date, since joining the NDC partnership, we have achieved a lot of, and the list is very long, but for this purpose of this, for the purpose of this presentation, I'm just going to summarize. I'm not going to go through everything. So since joining the NDC support partnership, we have managed to formulate the NDC partnership plan, which we are currently using as the main coordination and resource mobilizing tool. And to date, we have managed to bring over 20 development partners to come on board and support the implementation of our NDC activities in Namibia. We also managed through the partnership, the NDC partnership, we managed to mobilize resources from the German government and UNDP to do the revision of our NDCs that were finalized in July and submitted to the UNFCCC. And on top of that, we have also managed to secure fundings to do the NDC gender analysis study, as well as, and the outcomes of that NDC gender analysis study will be used to feed into the development of the NDC implementation strategy and action plan that will be developed sometimes next year. And we also managed to secure fundings to establish the NDC MRV system that will be set up also sometimes next year. And on top of that, we have also managed to secure fundings from the European Union through their flagship initiative that is called the Global Climate Change Alliance Plus for the NDC initiatives in Namibia. And lastly, we have also secure fundings from the French Development Bank for the support and coordination of the underground water exploration. And this is particularly important for dry countries such as Namibia to have a well-developed water resources in the country. And in conclusion, I would, as Namibians or as Namibia, we are very grateful for the support that we managed to leverage through the NDC partnership, and we wish to continue collaborating with them in making our climate ambitions or to turn our climate ambitions into reality. And I would also love to urge other developing countries to join the NDC partnership. To join the NDC partnership and in order to overcome these challenges. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alphonse, for that snapshot in terms of what the NDC partnership is doing. Even though he just gave like a short, brief, concise presentation of what the partnership is doing, it's actually a mammoth task coordinating all those 20 partners plus that Alphonse has just alluded to. Every day, somebody comes through, want to do this for Namibia. Is it possible? Can we meet? How do we do it? And it all falls on him. So if he calls any of you, please render him the support that he does require, because it is indeed a very big task. And we are grateful for the partners who have come through to support Namibia. Moving on, Meaina, I know the plans are ambitious, they are big. how do we do this if we don't have money, right? And so the question to you, Aina, is what is the financial outlook? You know, where do we stand? How can EIF assist us to meet some of these goals as we aim to move towards carbon neutrality? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning once again. As introduced, my name is Aina Maria Iteta, the Executive Business Strategy and Performance Management for the EIF. Of course, I will touch through in terms of the resources and what we foresee to support the ambitions set by our champion, that is the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. They are really doing a great job in terms of championing this process of climate change, where we could now include the carbon neutrality that we are trying to achieve under the Paris Agreement. Next, please. Yes, just by virtue of introduction, the Environmental Investment Fund, it's a state agency that has been established, of course, with the main purpose of resource mobilization. That is the core agenda on mandate of this institution. We are established by an Act of Parliament, Act number 13 of 2001. That is when we have been gazetted to be this official entity to take up that responsibility. Next, please. Yes, our main agenda is actually to be a recognized leader in terms of resource mobilization, focusing on climate change, and definitely with that mandate to support the national sustainable development issues of the country, that we do, definitely looking at different sectors, innovatives that actually support sustainable development, environmental management, green technologies, and the likes, mostly to safeguard our environment. Next, please. Yes, how do we achieve this? But maybe before I go to the resource mobilization issue, I think the government of Namibia set EIF as a special vehicle, actually targeting, we don't know if it was a coincidence or this was a fortunate case that EIF was definitely set officially promulgated by Parliament in 2001. However, it took almost 10 years for it to be activated, and setting the tone, we came to be alive or active at the same time when the GCF, that is now the biggest global climate financing fund at the moment, have been activated, and that is one of all the main key vehicle under the UNFCCC convention. And we were so lucky to have that momentum set at that juncture, and give it a point that EIF really became aligned to the initiation as well as to the opportunities that have been availed under the Green Climate Fund. So how we achieve our resource mobilization strategy, it's actually through a vigorous resource mobilization strategy that actually drive, it is a mandate from the Act as stated area. Next, please. Yes, as you can see, I think I was a youth when I joined the ministry, that's still me. However, as I indicated, the institution have really a vigorous resource mobilization strategy that to date we have managed to attract around about 120 million. That is from the multilateral as well as from international or domestic resources within our existence as an entity. Of course, from a national perspective, we have environmental levies that have been also gazetted, and we are foreseeing a good opportunity with this intervention from our government to generate resources that are really much needed, especially to achieve our highly ambitious NDC targets, and also including now the carbon neutrality that are part of our NDC target. Next, please. Just to take a bit of a snapshot of what we have obtained to date, from our forecast target. Of course, the Green Climate Fund has been really one of our biggest actually resource mobilization entity, where we have to date mobilized to or managed to have 4 projects that have been approved and under implementation. Most of them, they have even passed their midterm review with limited time of completing the exercise. Namibia was one of the entity which actually tested or had the EDA approach being piloted on, and we have really managed to deliver a successful lesson learned from that particular intervention, where you have the enhanced direct acted funding that are channeled most directly to the community. And given a good setup of the CBNRM platform in the country that have also shared good lesson globally, we have managed to use that platform also to concretize and also prove that, yes, the CBNRM sector in Namibia is really set up to function, and of course, being to be used as a modality to make sure that the fund that are earmarked to fight the climate change issues are actually being handled properly. So we also have the French Development Agency, that is the AFD. We managed to get around about 60 million US dollar there. Of course, this is quite crucial because we have now the involvement of the private sector. Of course, many a time we engage at this platform trying to put as parties involved into this convention. We probably have a bit of an involvement from the private sector. And for Namibia, through EIF in this particular case, we have managed to forge that good partnership with our private bank. These are the commercial bank intervention who came on board to work with the French agency to roll out this big program that have actually contributed mostly to the carbon neutrality at this juncture. So we have the, of course, national allocation, that is now our national budget allocation. So far we have around about 14 million there. And of course, other partners, Alfeo's here area just mentioned about a number of partners that are supporting the NDC. Most of these partners equally work parallel in partnership with EIF as a delivering partner or as an executing partner in those interventions. Next, please. Yes, Mr. Ashili mentioned, gave an overall picture of different sectors and how highly ambitious, the figures are quite scary at some stage, but as they always say, land of the brave. We are in this, and we are in this together with the group, and definitely our resource mobilization strategies are also ambitious, and we are going to approach this vigorously. Of course, we have some pipelined up programming and effort that are geared towards increasing our current resource mobilization strategy. Of course, EIF have been nominated also to be accredited by the Adaptation Fund, and we are actually hoping to make sure that we access 20 million US dollar in the upcoming 1 or 2 years after we get our accreditation. For the Green Climate Fund, of course, our key partner, EIF actually ran the first session of the entities that have been accredited. Likely we were among the first in Africa to get accredited to the GCF. So after 5 years, as we all know, an entity equally needs to be reaccredited. Luckily, last month we managed to have our reaccreditation again. So we have 5 years more to access resources from the Green Climate Fund for Namibia. And that is actually a milestone. And with this and building on the current portfolio of 4 projects that are worth 40 million US dollars, we are hoping to create a programming pipeline, hoping to probably get our access more than 3 or 4 projects in the upcoming 5 years. So of course, our government is doing quite a lot, especially when it comes to now domestic resource allocation. There has been really quite good political support. Of course, as you heard from Palace, His Excellency the President has been here showing support. That is a clear indicative that there is good political support from the land of the brave. And from the financial resource mobilization point of view, the environmental taxes are really showing a good support as well. And definitely, these are efforts that are focused and in place to contribute to the achievement of our highly ambitious NDC. Next, please. Yes, just to run through, those are some of the products that we have been concentrating on as mandated by the Act of Parliament. Of course, Namibia have introduced carbon tax, and of course, we have plastic levies and other environmental products that have been identified or yet to be identified. Of course, it is a living document. It is a living approach that we are using, and with a deliberate effort to make sure that the 10% that Mr. Ashiri have just presented earlier is achieved in terms of our contribution, not just to actually go out to reach out to the multilateral funding, but to portray and demonstrate as a country, as a nation, apart from setting those highly ambitious, we are also determined to do our part and ensure that we contribute to the resources that are being required in ensuring that our highly ambitious NDC targets are being achieved. Next, please. Yeah, I think in short, that is what we have in the pipeline for EIF. It's a vehicle that is earmarked or specially established by government to ensure that, yes, vigorously we go out there and approach whatever other international or multilateral fundings are available. We are more open for partnership. Probably be regional from a SADC level, it could be continentally as well as globally. It may be that Namibia as a developing nation, quite a very small population, our contribution to the greenhouse gases is not that significant. But yes, what we are saying and the message out there is that we are in this together, and we are also so kind of determined to make sure that the greenhouse gases that are destroying our good planet are actually being fought for, and we are going to contribute and do our part as a nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Meaina, for that presentation. 120 million US dollars may sound like it's a small figure for the international public out there, but for Namibia, this is quite a significant amount of money. And for an entity as small as EIF might be, it actually shows that there's actually strength behind the people who are running the institution. Thank you so much for that. Last but not least, our last speaker for today is Mr. Sikanda from the National Planning Commission. Sir, the plans are clear. By Vision 2030 states that by 2030, we are going to be a developed country. Our NDC is putting more pressure on you that by 2030, they want 91% of greenhouse gases cut in Namibia. What are the plans? How is the NDC aligning all of this to meet, how is the NPC aligning all of these plans to meet these targets? Thank you.
Thank you, Bernadette. Good morning. It's a pleasure for me to come talk to the viewers about the National Planning Commission. Whatever the colleagues have spoken here, starting with Paulus, Alpheus, and Aina there, these are anchored on our supreme law, which is the Constitution. I'll start by saying that, the Constitution, Article number 95 of the Namibia Constitution, makes provision for the protection of the environment and sustainable utilization of natural resources. And in the same vein, Article 129 establishes the National Planning Commission to be an entity that will spearhead the formulation of national development plans, to spearhead the priority setting of national development. So I think by having me here, Bernadette, it's really a good thing so that we can see what colleagues have spoken, how they are aligned. And then we're saying that in 2004, Namibia as a country, we launched our long-term plan, which is Vision 2030. Now we're only left with few years. Are we attaining what we have aspired to attain in 2030 or not? In this case particularly, to have an environment that is not corrupted by what is happening in the world, what is happening in the country. Yes, we are monitoring this. We have national development plans that are put in place to see to it that we attain what we have set for ourselves. In 2004, when Vision 2030 was launched, we were already having our second national development plan. In there, we did not leave out the environment and natural resources issues. This was one of our goals, that in as much as we are tapping from our environment, using our natural resources, but we have to do this sustainably, not only for us, but also for generations to come, and also not to contaminate the atmosphere, not to contaminate our seas, our oceans, and all those things. Hence, through the national development plans, we are not leaving out the natural resources and environment. Like the current one, we have a goal on natural resources and environment that we have to monitor the way the country is emitting carbon into the atmosphere. Through the line ministries, Minister of Environment, Forest and Tourism, Minister of Mines and Energy, and other line ministries that are contributing to this. So we have these national development plans that we as National Planning Commission are monitoring, working closely with other offices, ministry, and agencies in attaining this, and also contributing to the NDC. I think my friend here has spoken about the Act, Environmental Management Act, Act number 7 of 2004, which aims to promote sustainable management and use of natural resources and environment. This is in line with our long-term plan. It's in line with the Article 95 that I have said. And then the last speaker before me spoke about finances. It's true, in fighting all these, we cannot do without finances. Hence the establishment of EIF. But she's been from time to time pointing to say the government is not only stretching hands, out there for donors, but in its budget also, it's putting an effort to have an allocation that is directed towards natural resources and environment through line ministries like Environment and Tourism, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Mines and Energy. Dear audience, allow me to say that the country, Namibia, its economy has got a backbone which is based on natural resources, because the major contributor to our economy, it's mining. These are natural resources. And then we have tourism, we have agriculture. All these, they tap from natural resources. Then how we are tapping from that, we have to be very much careful that we do not deplete. And in the same vein again, we do not contaminate the atmosphere. We do not contaminate the environment. Hence, in our budgeting, we have to make sure that we put some resources that are geared towards fighting that which we do not want. In doing this, dear audience, we are not doing it just as a government, but we are also involving the communities. There are policies, strategies that are in place. There is a community-based natural resource management. The policy under the Ministry of Environment and Tourism. This is to involve the community down on the grassroots so that they are also involved in conserving, in sustainable utilization of the natural resources, while at the same time they are benefiting from that. Dear audience, let me just conclude by saying that Namibia acknowledges that climate change impacts directly the entire chain of national development and has negative impact on efforts to achieve development objectives, including the long-term objectives and targets of Namibia's Vision 2030. The goal of Namibia's panel on climate change has been to contribute to the attainment of sustainable development in line with Namibia's Vision 2030 through the strengthening of national capacities to reduce climate change risks and build resilience for any climate change shocks. Therefore, Vision 2030 is designed as a broad, unifying plan which serves to guide the country's 5-year development plans, which started with NDP 2 through to NDP 7 when the Vision 2030 will be concluded. In doing this, the government is not doing it alone, but it's rather providing direction to offices, ministries, agencies, the private sector, non-governmental organizations, civil society, regional and local government authorities, as well as the entire communities. Therefore, the country's long-term vision creates policy synergies to effectively link its long perspective, medium and short-term planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sikanda. We've just seen that when it comes to planning, Namibia has always taken a proactive approach and a visionary approach. We want to aim big, we want to aim high, and nothing is going to stop us. Okay, that brings us to the end of the presentation. So now we're going to have the Q&A session. Perhaps I can start with myself, and I will go in the order of Mr. Sikando, who spoke last, just to tell the audience quickly in terms of what are some of the challenges you foresee as we embark on this path towards carbon neutrality, and what are some of the solutions to overcome those challenges?
Thank you, Bernadette. I think the challenges, as usual, being a developing nation, we are challenged by a lot of things. But to overcome those, definitely we need financial resource. Hence, EIF is in place to fight this. However, we as a country, I think a few days ago, Minister of Finance spoke about the country launching a sovereign wealth fund. This sovereign wealth fund is a fund that will help the country in terms of shocks to the economy, in terms of shocks of climate nature, in terms of other related things. So resource mobilization is the challenge, but overcoming it is opening our doors, like what we have seen a few days ago here, the hydrogen, that we've opened our hands for the expertise to come to our country and use that potential, unlock the potential that we have. Once it is unlocked, it was said here that the potential of hydrogen, it will create employment. it will also boost the economy. In the same vein, I think it will also make the country not to really to rely on the chemical fertilizers, the ammonia that will be coming out of that. So all these are the potentials the country has. Namibia being a dry country, but we have, I think, the longest sea, coastal line. We are putting plans in place for blue economy. We have the okay. We are coming up with the marine resource plan so that we can manage our ocean resources. I think these are some that I can allude to your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sikanda. Ashili, challenges that you foresee and how do you think we can overcome them as we implement our NDC and aim towards carbon neutrality?
Yes, thank you, Bernadette. Yes, what we have set ourselves, it's very, very ambitious, and of course there will be a lot of challenges, but we will definitely do our best to turn those challenges into opportunities. As a ministry that is responsible for coordinating all these climate change activities, we will definitely try to make sure that we address those challenges, and we have a very solid approach that we are going to use to mobilize, for instance, much needed finance to implement some of the program that we have set ourselves. Back home, we have already nominated several institutions to be accredited to some of these biggest financing windows, where we have, for instance, nominated Bank Windhoek to look at private sector, how they can access some of the available funding opportunities at those funding windows. And also the Development Bank of Namibia, we have nominated them. They are at an advanced stage to attain their accreditation. So once those institutions attain their accreditation, I think we will be able to address some of these challenges that we will face when we are implementing the NDC. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Alphonse?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bernadette. I think some of the challenges when it comes to the implementation of NDCs, I will talk about, the lack of capacity or the technical know-how in terms of when it comes to the implementation of these activities that we set ourselves to. So to overcome such challenges, we can partner up with other countries that are doing the same things that we want to do, and of course also by joining like now we are part of the NDC partnership support unit. So that's how we are overcoming some of these challenges. And we have another challenge when it comes to the access to newer, greener technologies. And like in some sectors, in sectors such as energy and agriculture. And to overcome these challenges, we just need to bring in experts or to explore what other countries are doing in terms of in those sectors. That's how we can overcome these challenges. So that's all I can think of for now.
All right. Meina?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. In addition to what my colleagues have just indicated, our challenges really are at global level in this fight. we have been following, globally the development in terms of availing resources. Groups of protesters here in Scotland, the message is out there loud and clear. So we need to act. That's the message. Some protesters yesterday have been referring to the bra issue. So we come here, we talk the talk. It is time to act. Developed nation can make preach here and there. They need to avail resources. Developing nations are suffering mostly because of our low resilient strategy and capacity to adapt to climate change issues. And it is only fair if the approach towards actually realizing the Paris Agreement is enhanced at a global level. Yes, of course, a certain level of responsibility, accountability have to be there. But we have to ensure that while developed nations preach to avail resources, there should not be some kind of tactic to ensure that some delay tactic of accessing those resources, especially by developing nations. The islands, those that are suffering, those communities that need these resources mostly. So mechanisms, vehicles are put there where these resources are being deposited, but the accessibility of these resources remain one of the issues that we need to engage at a global level. So it doesn't help you make resources available, but yet the stringent measures that are there put up as roadblock to actually limit the accessibilities of these resources, it defies the purpose of us achieving the 1.5 degrees Celsius. So I'm calling out to the world out there that we have to be realistic. Let's walk the talk. This deliberation, negotiation in circle will not actually get us anywhere. So that is my preach, and that is a global challenge that we need to address, especially at this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Meaina, for those powerful words. Now I invite questions from the audience. Yeah, all right, I'll just walk to you and then you can just raise your question. Maybe you can introduce yourself, it's being recorded.
Okay, my name is Absalom Shiweda. I'm a journalist, independent journalist, specializing in environmental issues. When your speakers were giving their presentation, I was taking very serious notes here, but somehow I got lost. To Mr. Ashili, I wanted you to tell me again how much the area that you want as part of the NDC to restore the degraded land that you plan to restore. And that's one question. And to Mr. Alpheus, you said you secured fund resources from Germany, and I want you to tell me what other country you said in another country, but I cannot remember it. And to Mrs. Aina, you towards the end of your presentation, you said Environmental Investment Fund has also been accredited to the Adaptation Fund, and there is $20 million that you are hoping to secure from that. Is that correct? And then there was a GCF. You said the GCF, the EIF has now been reaccredited. We have another 5 years. The $30 million, is that what you are planning to secure from them for the next 5 years? And the $50 million, is that what you are hoping to secure from as part of the environmental levy? If that is correct, now for the last 5 years, as an accredited entity to the GCF, how much money have you mobilized? Thank you.
All right, maybe Aina, you can start first, and then Alpheus, and then Ashili.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shiweda, for those good questions. I will start with the reaccreditation to the GCF. Yes, EIF just get another run of 5 years reaccredited to the GCF. Of course, what we have set there is the pipeline, and we are going to approach this in a programming way. I think we all know EIF is accredited at micro level, that is category C. In fact, we only have a maximum of 10 million US dollar per project. So you could already see the stumbling block that I'm talking about in terms of accessing this funding. It's quite a macro level, and with 10 million US dollars, you can really do less to ensure that, or to achieve the highly ambitious target we have set ourselves as a nation. The 30 million and indicative there is that we are hoping, actually, that is the minimum for 5 years that we have set, to do a programming of a number of projects that should enable us to access that 30 million US dollars for the upcoming 5 years. In fact, we would want more than that. For the past 5 years, as EIF actually got accredited to the GCF, we managed to access around about 40 million US dollars worth of project. Those are the 4 projects that are currently running in Namibia. The 2 projects are almost in their last 1 year remaining period. And the other last 2 are more or less at their midpoint of implementation. So that is with the GCF. For the adaptation fund, we were recently actually nominated through our NDA, which is the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, to be accredited to the adaptation fund. So yes, we remain positive. The fact that we managed to be reaccredited to the GCF, it's going to be a fast-track approach for the adaptation fund. And of course, the adaptation fund have actually raised their cap, which is actually from 10 million US dollar to 20 million US dollar. That's why we are focusing in our pipeline to ensure that, yes, we will definitely access that 20 million US dollar. I'm not so sure if I get the other 5. Yes, for the environmental levies, the environmental levies, that is actually a forecasted figure for the upcoming 5 years. Of course, we have seen of lately that the government have been making progress with plastic levies. Of course, other countries have totally banned plastic bag, the use of plastic bag, because of their detrimental effect to the environment. But for Namibia, we have actually made or took a decision that let's capitalize on that, so we have resource mobilization. So we reinvest this particular return back to the environment, and that is one of the good national domestic resource mobilization strategy that our government have come up with. So the 50 million is a forecasted for upcoming 5 years, looking also to the previous performance of what we have achieved so far. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Meina. Alphonse, if you can just expand on the question of the partnerships.
Yes, thank you, Abdisalom. Yeah, so we have secured fundings from the German government through GIZ and UNDP through their, there's an initiative called Climate Promises that was launched in 2019 at Cop25 in Madrid to revise and update our NDCs that were submitted in July to UNFCCC this year. Thank you.
All right. Actually, the question was on the restoration targets.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Shiweda, for that question. We have actually set ourselves to restore about 15.5 million hectares per year by up to 2030. So those are the targets that we have set ourselves. And also maybe just to indicate that those targets were actually drawn from the forestry policies and forestry strategy that exists with the Ministry of Agriculture and Water for land reform. So it's not targets that actually came from the Ministry of Environment, but it's from the line ministry that is responsible for forestry. Yeah.
All right.
So,
thank you, Ashili. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes. If you can just introduce yourself for the sake of the online audience.
Thank you very much. My name is Johannes Serunda from the Namibia Water Corporation. My question is on the issue of accessibility of fund, which I have noticed that is really a challenge. My question is that is there any possibility of standardization from these agencies who are distributing the fund in terms of requirement? Because when you look at these agencies, they have different requirements, and some of them, they require a lot of information, and that is very discouraging when you are completing those submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sirunda, for that. I'm not sure who's going to take this question, perhaps. I9 Ashili.
Okay, let me go first. I think that's actually a genuine complaint that Johannes have just launched. Even here at negotiations, actually parties are actually also complaining. I attended the meeting yesterday where the executive director for the Green Climate Fund was presenting, but parties were also not happy with the stringent requirements that some of these multilateral funding window have put in place. But they have promised to streamline the requirements. I hope moving forward, we will be able to access some of these resources without any hindrances. So, but as parties here also, we should also, keep on pushing all these funding windows to make sure that, processes are not made difficult for us to access those much needed resources.
Right. So I suppose your job is cut out as you are negotiating. Actually, all right, Meina.
I would rather look at that. It's not a question, but it is a derived concern that we all share. And I think Mr. Ashiri have just put it in the right platform that, and definitely this is directory to the agencies that are responsible for managing this funding. The call is mutual, that we need to look at this with the seriousness it deserves. And definitely through our chief negotiators, our focal to the UNFCCC convention, it is an issue that we have to take up as a nation. The call is actually mutual.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any other questions from the online audience? Sorry, from the in-house audience. All right, if there's none, I have one for the speakers. Mine is just to each of you at the institutions where you are sitting, given the position that you hold, how important is political will towards achieving these NDC targets? I'll start with Aina again, since she spoke last.
Women, it's being abused here. But nevertheless, I think political support for Namibia, I would say we are actually blessed. We are in a better position that since then, really 30 years after independence, our politicians have always been positive towards development. We enjoy political support at different levels. Of course, we might have our disagreement here and there, but when it comes to national agenda, our politicians have always been positive. Of course, we have seen this with His Excellency lately here, a team of ministers coming up to support really this convention. For me, that it deploys and it demonstrates that there is a strong political support at national level. And specifically for EIF, Of course, we have achieved all this resource mobilization, and it has been done because of the strong political support that we have, the good leadership from our ministries, our line ministries, and of course, from the main office, that is the head state office. So we are proud that for Namibia as a country.
Thank you so much. Alphonse? The question is, how important is political will and support to the work that you are doing in fulfillment of the NDCs?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bernadette. In the work that I'm doing, I sit in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism. We are actually in the forefront driving the whole implementation of the NDCs. And we have a lot of political support, even when we revised our NDCs. Our minister went to cabinet to table it there, and it was endorsed before it was submitted. And so there's a lot of political support from our politicians, and it's making life easier. Even now, the development partners, different development partners or international partners are willing to come on board and support or to take up the country's initiatives in fulfilling the implementation of the NDCs. So we have been, every week or every month, we are approached by new partners that wants to come on board and take up some of these initiatives. So the political will is there, and we are very grateful for our politicians. Thank you very much.
All right, wonderful. Ashley?
Yes, thank you, Bernadette. But I think the colleagues have already summarized everything. Political will, very important. But in our case, we have really done exceedingly very well because when we started with the process of developing our NDC, we have actually involved our politicians from the beginning. And I think that support will continue throughout until we achieve what we have set ourselves. So the climate commitments that we have developed were shared with our politicians. They have endorsed it through, their cabinet. So it's highly supported, and you can see our Excellency was here launching the biggest initiative in our NDC. So there is that political support, and it's really very important if you want to move forward.
Mr. Sikanda?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. There is indeed political will. Let me speak, on the legal framework. Our legal framework in the country, really, it's one of the legal frameworks that is so open to the world. It is the reason that, when His Excellency here announced about, the bidder for the green hydrogen, we saw that, there were many. They had to look at the legal framework. How flexible is it? So that when they go there are no stringents that will stop them, from excelling. So there is that political will to see to it that, the potential is unlocked for the country, for the benefit of everyone, and also for development. Hence, legal framework put in place is really so smooth for all investors. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, for those remarks. Do we have any questions?
Thank you very much, moderator. My question goes to Paulus. I think maybe the last one, it will go to Aina. Hey, Paulus, in your presentation, you indicated clearly that the country, Namibia, is emitting less compared to other countries. But when I looked at your budget, you are allocating more resources to mitigation than adaptation. What is the rationale behind the ideas? The last question goes to Aina. You indicated clearly as well by saying that the act to establish the Environmental Investment Fund was enacted by Parliament in 2001, but it took 10 years to establish the institution. What was some of the bottlenecks or challenges that delayed the establishment of the Environmental Investment Fund? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the? All right. Maybe we can start with Ashili first.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question. It's a very relevant question. As a vulnerable country, adaptation is one of our key areas that we want to put emphasis. But also mitigation is also an area that we want to put much effort. So if you look at our emission profile, we are emitting a lot under mitigation sectors. Hence, there is also a bigger investment in that sector. But we will try by all means also to make sure that we have a much investment going to adaptation. So yeah, the investment is a bit high because that's the area we have a lot of emission.
Meina?
Okay, quite a very interesting question from the colleague there, and quite political. I wouldn't want to get into the political dimension, but let me tell you a little bit of a story, you know, at the establishment of EIF. You know, Namibia, I will make it short. When we attained our independence in 1990, His Excellency, the founding father, Sam Nujoma, when they arrived from the jungles, they came back jetted probably in Ondangwa there. That was the only main one airport in the North Central region. That is an area where it used to be a deep forest. I think most of us, we have seen, probably if we can portray 40 years back, it would show how issues of deforestation, climate change have taken its toll. So when he came back, he couldn't probably recognize where he came from. That is his area of Onganjera or Kahao. So it was a desert, according now to the view and the picture of what they found. So Namibia, I think that was early in 1992, 1991, we were among the first nation to develop our green agenda. So it started from there. You know, the motive was so motivated and activated by the status quo. Our elders found to see this is not happening. What have transpired over the period when they were out. So we needed to act in terms of combating issues of desertification. And it was really a significant picture that they have portrayed, and His Excellency, the founding president of Namibia, championed that agenda. That is where it started. And that is where the deliberation of the establishment of an entity that should focus into restoration of our forestry, investing in our natural environment and protecting it at the end of the day, actually started. Yes, of course, there will be some political dimension. The interests have to change. Of course, Namibia just came out of the colonialization era. The priorities have also to be debated at some agenda. Of course, I would definitely assume that environment intervention lost priority somewhere in transformation. Then later, 10 years, we realized that globally, as a country, there is no turning back here. Issues of climate change, environmental degradations were taking toll, not just at national level, but globally. I think we have also realized issues of drought persistently that have been happening to Namibia, flood. You know, we have to act as a country. I think that is what motivated our politicians then to say, look, we have established this entity. Why don't we activate it? And I think that was the time also Namibia, I think if we recall well, we also participated in the bid to host the Green Climate Fund. And we came third. Let's give ourselves a hand of applause to that. So we came third. And that demonstrates how ambitious our politicians came to the party to join and the issues of climate change and realize how important it is that the institution that they set up by an act of parliament should be activated later on. I think that was just a short story of how that whole dimension and transformation happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Meaina. Fellow speakers, fellow participants, as we wrap up, 2030 is not far off the horizon. Vision 2030 needs to be achieved. And in conclusion, really, what are some of the key success factors for us to realize this ambition that the country has set itself up for? I will start in the middle with Ashili, and then Alphonse, and then Mr. Sikanda, and then I'll end with Aina.
Yes, thank you, Bernadette. Yeah, for us to realize what we have set ourselves, first of all, we really need to include all the players in the sectors. We should not work alone. We should forge partnerships. It's the only way we can actually achieve what we have set ourselves. There are so much opportunities. We need to explore those opportunities and see how we can move forward. In terms of policies, I think we are doing very well. There is nothing that will stop what we have set ourselves. I think we just need to take it on. Thank you.
Awesome. Alphonse?
Yeah, so we need funding, obviously, to implement most of our activities that we have set ourselves to. And it's, for me, it's all about funding. We need to mobilize funding. The time is now. 2030 is not far, and this is not just a government initiative on its own. So we need to join hands with the government institutions. Need to join hands with the private sector. We need to bring in the non-governmental organizations. We need to bring in international partners to come on board and help us to realize our dreams. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Sikanda.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Let me start by, you said, okay, what has been achieved so far? I think we've achieved a lot, Madam Moderator. If we look at, how our ocean resources was being exploited before, and now, on the conservation side, really we have achieved a lot. Now we are managing our resources sustainably. That's an achievement. Coming to another achievement on the transport and logistics, our road network, really, we have achieved a lot. Because, why am I connecting this? Because without proper road network, then it means, it will contribute to the breakages of cars, and then later on, even the emission. Then we are not fighting the emission of carbon. So our road network, we are doing well. Yes, there are some areas where we still really need to do more. It's on the research. There, I think we still need really some help from the international community so that we can enhance our research, be it on climate matters, be it on manufacturing, be it on other issues. Thank you so much.
All right, Naina.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Now, a final remark. Really, I would want to emphasize that Namibia as a country, we are proud of what our community-based natural resource management, that is our CBNRM fraternity, have achieved to date. They are doing quite a good job It's one of the platform that has been well set up and well managed. We should put in effort to sustain that or make it get better. Oh yes, Namibia is set to be a prosperous nation by 2030, and we are going to achieve that. Mr. Skanda have alluded to, we have achieved quite a lot, and we are on the march. Aggressively, we are going to mobilize resources to make sure that our ambitions are achieved. There is no going back to that. Yes, definitely, we work together as a well-coordinated nation. With that, we can achieve a lot, and I'm very grateful that we have a good political support that have created as an enabler to the developmental agenda to be achieved for Namibia to be a prosperous nation by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So to the world, Namibia is ready. We have proven ourselves to be unstoppable. We invite you to invest in our country, to partner with us, and definitely Vision 2030 is ours to claim. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much to the speakers. Oh, okay.